Welcome to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can listen to all of our terrific podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording today's episode on Tuesday, August 8th. And joining me, as always, is Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, it's great to be back with you after a little hiatus. You and I both had things going on the last few weeks, and we taped a few shows en masse, and now we're back ready to talk about the news of the day. But first of all, sir, wellness check. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm in my home office in suburban Chicago. You are out on the road, I believe, in Las Vegas, Nevada. I saw a text from you earlier today. You said it was 107 degrees there. I hope you're staying cool. I want to jump right into this Fitch rating story. Fitch obviously offers guidance with regard to the viability of governments to pay money back, to borrow it and pay money back. And it applies ratings to government entities. And the United States had its credit rating dropped from AAA to AA plus. People are probably like, well, I don't even know what any of this means. What does any of this mean?
Yeah, look, the rating agencies, are basically there to provide information to investors, to bond investors, about the credit quality of companies, and in this case, governments, right? The U.S. government in particular. And what Fitch did is it downgraded, right, the credit quality of the U.S. government from AAA, which is like the best rating you can get, to AA plus, basically signaling that the U.S. government was not as credit worthy as it once was.
Got it. So, so tell me what this means to me. I mean, I live in Illinois. We've had Fitch credit ratings that frankly went to letters series that I had never known would exist, and were rated at BBB plus. And that is actually an upgrade that we were rated at one point, I believe, one level below junk. I mean, why should any of us care about this? Why does this ultimately matter? And how do we connect with this in real life?
Well, look, bottom line is, do you want to lend your money to some entity that is likely not to be able to pay you back? Is really the question, right? And so, and that's why we care about these ratings, these credit rating agencies. But in the case of the U.S. government, the U.S. government it's a massive. The U.S. economy is a massive economy, and the U.S. dollar and the U.S. Treasury securities are still the global reserve currency. And being a monetary sovereign basically means that the U.S. will never need to default on its debt, and that basically the increase in the cost of servicing U.S. debt will likely, the increase in the cost of debt, the increase in fiscal deficits and U.S. debt will likely show up in terms of higher inflation, not in terms of the U.S. Ever having to default on its obligations. And so while Fitch comes out and does this to kind of like sound the alarm, right, and tell people, look, this is what's going on. We have this erosion of governance in America. We have this fiscal deterioration. The reality is the U.S. will never need to default. What the U.S. will likely do is continue to take out more and more debt, which is just going to show up in inflation in the form of an inflation tax on its residents. So that's really what it means. Another thing is when this happened, we barely saw a market reaction. And the reason we barely saw a market reaction is because I think bond investors already knew this was going on, right? We knew this from before, from when we had this, we almost reached that debt limit, the debt limit crisis, and we had to raise the debt ceiling. The markets already internalized all of this. It was all priced in. And so, the reality is usually very often those ratings tend to follow the market, not the other way around.
Yeah. So, I mean, when might this change positively or negatively? How often would Fitch issue a rating on the federal government's credit? I mean, I can't remember the last time that this was a headline at the national level. Like I said, I mean, I live in Illinois. It was a headline. It seemed like every quarter we went down, and then recently we've been able to, largely I think through stimulus dollars, have been able to pay some of the debt that we had on time and improve our rating here in Illinois. But at a national level, this is a story that doesn't feel like it comes around all that often.
No, last time was S&P Global lowered the U.S. rating to AA+ in 2011, right? And so, the Standard & Poor's Global, which is S&P, they did the same thing in 2011, so a while back. And in 2011, we had a similar situation where we had, a little bit of gridlock in Congress, and we were late at raising the debt ceiling, and so this was expected. What I'm surprised about is that Fitch did not really do this sooner. I think they just kind of waited around. We had waited for the pandemic to kind of go away. The pandemic was kind of the reason why we started, maybe not even the only reason. I think before the pandemic, we already had some issues, right? We have, growing obligations. And I'm talking about Social Security, for example, that are just not going to go away without major reforms. And so this credit rating change should have come sooner, but it was delayed, which is why a lot of people were scratching their heads, right? Like, why now?
Right. Well, I appreciate the insights. I mean, this is one of those things that I think would zoom over the heads of most people. Don't really think about it. Not really something that enters into our day-to-day life, but frankly, it matters to all of us. So
it's definitely going to matter, right? It's going to matter in the long run. If we continue on the path we're on, right? Getting close to breaching the debt limit every time, that it's just going to show up in higher yields and potentially a ton more inflation.
Thanks so much, Orphe. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other high-quality podcasts at americastalking.com.